Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Todd Sievert. I'm chairman of the Finance Committee. To my right is Mrs. Westfall. To my left is Jeffrey Schilling. It's about 7 after 6, and we are here to conduct a Finance Committee meeting on 2 issues. The first one, to provide a recommendation to Council regarding acceptance of the recommendation of the Tax Incentive Review Council that the enterprise zone agreements be continued and that the Troy Town Center Park TIF be continued. Consideration of emergency legislation requested as reports are to be filed with the state.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. State of Ohio requires that, state law requires that the TIRC, the Tax Incentive Review Council, meet annually to evaluate any enterprise zone agreements or tax increment financing districts be evaluated for compliance. As they do every year, they met earlier this month to evaluate whether the 5 enterprise zone agreements are in compliance with job growth and job stability. The committee had evaluated in 2024 those 5 agreements, and they found that the abrasives agreement was not in compliance that year. Last year, it hadn't been in compliance for several years. Last year, the committee recommended 1 more year of approval, but conditioned upon them meeting their job goals, their job commitments. Otherwise, their recommendation would be to terminate that agreement. Unfortunately, Arc Abrasives did not meet that their job targets, and so the committee has recommended that that agreement be terminated. It would otherwise expire at the end of 2027, but again, they are not recommending that continue past 2024. Regarding the tax increment financing, the TIF area, which is generally in the area of Walmart Town Park, that is in compliance, and they are recommending continuation of that agreement as well. We are asking for emergency legislation. That is an annual ask because the companies, most of whom are not local as far as their headquarters, and so they'd have to generate the numbers and supply them to us. We received the last 2 numbers earlier last week, and the filing requirement is in April, and so we do need emergency legislation consideration.
Okay. Any other comments from you, Mr. Schilling?
Yes. Mr. Chitterington, on the Arc Abrasives, I know they've been an employer in this Troy community for a long, long time. And the question is, what penalties, if we terminate this agreement with them, what penalties would they, economic penalties, are they going to incur as a result of the termination of the contract?
Yeah, there are no fines or penalties per se. What they will lose is some of the property tax abatement that they received that were contingent upon them meeting job requirements. They were given consideration for several years for the reasons that you're implying, right. But last year, again, as I mentioned earlier, the committee or the council, the TIRC, did indicate that that needed to be the last year if they didn't meet their goals again in 2024.
So again, the tax, if the tax abatements, what do these total for Arc Abrasives over the next 3.5? If this agreement were to have gone on, if this agreement would have gone 3 years, another 3 years 2027.
Are you looking for an amount that they would have saved?
Yeah,
I don't have that figure. I can get that to you, but I don't have that with me, the detail.
okay, yeah, I think, just as, as I say, again, it's, sometimes business is tough and things change and, we try to encourage businesses to stay in Troy as long as they can, and, so I'd just like to see what the economic,
Which again is
Impact.
why.
oh, I know,
when that
we've done it for
happens,
years, and
you know,
I'm just saying it, it's
once-
just,
Once or twice, that's one thing, but when it's a continuous miss, then that
I just,
it weakens the integrity of the overall program as an effective incentive to, because the incentive is to promote jobs, job growth,
Sure.
expansions, and so that's why the criteria is set the way it is.
And there was significant discussion about this last year, as my recollection from the Finance Committee, and sufficient notice was put on that this is a contractual obligation and this is what you're supposed to provide on the employment side. I have not seen those numbers, Jeff, so I don't dispute we can get those from Mr.
Yeah, if we can get those, that'd be
Tittington,
great. That would-
But I do know that this isn't a random, you didn't meet the requirement. I know there was significant discussion last year from my recollection.
yeah,
about-
I remember that, but
And I,
hate to penalize any businesses located in the city of Troy,
yeah, and I would point out that the other, ConAgra and Clopay are the recipients of the other two EZAs, and they certainly have worked hard to keep a strong workforce available, so.
ConAgra actually has 3 of the 5.
Yeah, 3 of the, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And, okay, anything else, Mr. Schilling?
No, that was it.
Mrs. Westphal, any questions?
I just wanted to know, what are the job requirements? Like, do they have to grow each year? What is the employment requirement?
No, they don't have to grow annually, they just have to be at a certain level.
Okay, so they
I-
can't lose jobs?
I'm sorry?
They can't lose jobs? Is
Well,
that-
they can lose jobs if they've got a cushion. ConAgra and Clopay are well over their job minimums.
Okay,
So they have that cushion. Arcobrasive unfortunately didn't have it.
right, smaller. Okay,
I want to follow up to Mr. Schilling's point. I assume there was communication between staff and ARC Abrasives, right? Asking
Yes.
them and
Absolutely.
giving them notice that we need these numbers
Yes.
before we went to this level.
Yes, and we let them know of the communication last year. We've communicated with them during the year. Mr. Davis had, Tim Davis had multiple conversations with them leading up to their report.
Any further questions from the Finance Committee before I turn it over to other council members? Anybody on council have any further comments?
If I may,
Mr. Phillips?
Mr. Titterton, so they are very well aware of what is occurring here.
They are, yes.
And the negativity for them is what primarily?
They will lose the abatement,
Or their taxes?
the incremental abatement that they received from the project and the increase in value of their property. That abatement would go away, so their property taxes would increase.
Gotcha,
And I will forward that data when I get it.
gotcha. Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Anybody else on council? Anybody in the audience have any comments about this particular enterprise zone TIF legislation? Okay, Mr. Schilling, how do you suggest we proceed?
Well, if we're going to be getting some information, what are our choices here? I mean, if we can't make a decision, we're not voting on it tonight, but
I think we have a deadline that we have to meet to get the information to the state. I don't know what that exact deadline is.
It's the beginning of April.
So we're already on we're past the deadline right now, almost.
Well, today's the 31st.
Yeah,
but,
the beginning of April is
Beginning of
tomorrow.
April, meaning the first couple of weeks of April. I don't have an exact date, but it is definitely in April, so we,
Have to be on the
Can't delay.
agenda for 7th?
yes, I will get that data before then,
Okay.
for what it's worth. I don't know exactly what the reason is, other than to know what the impact is, but
Well, I mean, if the company is struggling, and then we turn around and say, well, you got to pay higher income, higher real estate taxes, is that going to be is that going to be the thing that's going to push them into a condition where they can't be in Troy any longer?
Well, the inverse argument to that, Jeff, is they signed a contract that said this is what we're going to do, and if they didn't comply with that contract, then that's where, I mean, that's where we are.
Right.
I mean,
well, it goes beyond that as well. I mean, keep in mind that since 2015, we have been providing that abatement to them, so their property taxes were lowered on the promise that they would have a certain level of jobs.
Right.
Jobs meaning income tax, meaning revenues for the general fund and the economic development and safety and the amenities that we've got here. So it's very much a quid pro quo, which is why it was an incentive to make sure that they maintained or exceeded their job numbers.
Okay. No, I understand that. I'm just saying, you know,
okay, how do you wish to proceed?
To move forward with emergency
we'll move forward, I
legislation.
guess, that's all right.
You sure?
Yeah, we'll be all right.
Okay, so move forward with emergency unanimously.
And I will get those numbers hopefully tomorrow.
Thank you. The second issue before the Finance Committee is to provide a recommendation to council regarding an application to participate in the Employee Creation Incentive Program, ESIP, for an expansion project that brings 166 new employees and annual payroll of over $7 million.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a program that council approved back in 2020. It is an income tax rebate program that's provided to the company that, in the case of this project, is an expansion of an existing business, I don't think that we put the actual brochure and description of the project. We can give that to you when I give you the abatement numbers, but
You have a pretty, and the report has a pretty involved
okay.
Yeah, it does.
Very good.
Discussion.
report.
And so it is an expansion project. As you mentioned, it's 166 employees. Their capital expenditure estimate exceeds $25 million. In an expansion project, with those two numbers, they've exceeded the threshold for the incentive, 6-year incentive. They are looking at $7 million in new payroll, $122,500 at the income tax rate, net of our estimated rebate of $34,000 a year, and so we would net $88,500 in estimated net income tax every year of the incentive. We are not asking for emergency legislation.
And I think at the end of your report, there's also criteria that if it drops below 1.25 million, that the rebate program would be suspended.
Correct. But again, with 7 million projected, they have a little bit of a cushion.
No, I understand. I just wanted to point out that there's also criteria if it
There is.
if it does not meet that. Okay, Mr. Schilling,
I have no comments.
I have no comment.
anybody else on council have any comments about this? Anybody in the audience? Okay, seeing none, I would like to congratulate the Development Council and the city for this project. I know it's been going on for a while, and I think we're very pleased to have a development like this in the coming within the city limits. So I would, Mr. Schilling and Ms. Westfall, and I think myself, all agree to move forward with legislation on April 7th. Anything else before the Finance Committee?
No, sir.
Okay. Finance Committee's closed. Thank you.